I've been loving this Protoss player's games lately, so let's see how he does against one of the world's greatest Terrans. Spotting right here in game number 1 of this best of 3 series that was recently played in the GSL Code S. With the blue Protoss probes, we have none other than Stats. The Shield of Ire himself and his opponent in the opposite corner. The People's Terran with the red SCVs. We're looking at none other than Cure's main command center. Cure, in his entire professional career, he's been overlooked. I don't mean that with any disrespect whatsoever, but I always feel like nobody talks about Cure. This guy's ridiculously good. For a long while, he had the best TVP in the world. He's just always been so strong. But yet nobody ever talks about him. Yeah. When people discuss who the best Terran in the world is, you'll have, well, Clem coming up, Maru coming up, maybe somebody like Bjorn comes up as well. Cure is ridiculously good. I love watching Cure games. He doesn't play particularly spicy. I guess that's kind of the thing. Like, when you think of Bjorn, you immediately have a... At least I immediately can imagine the type of style he will play. When I think of Maru, yeah, I've got like a vision of what I can expect. A lot of Cure's games kind of look like, hold my beer, I can do this too, right? Like, that's kind of what it looks like, and then you give it a try in your own games and it goes absolutely horrible. He's a very strong Terran, one of the world's best. He has won a bunch of tournaments too, but yet nobody really talks about him all too often. Yeah, he's not that much of a madman. As soon as Bjorn gets a medevac out, you can probably assume about 90% of the time that he's going to be sending it across the map with whatever combination of units he's got left over. A Cyclone, a Landed Viking, maybe a Reaper. He just sends whatever he's got. Cure doesn't really do that. In general, maybe a little bit more build order focused, although, well, in this particular game, we're going a Reaper straight into a Reactor. Reaper goes across the map. Technically a little bit risky because we didn't actually double check with an SCV, but should be alright. Especially when you go up against Stats. Stats, of course, not really somebody who plays the game particularly strangely. Good old Wolof right there on the top of the high ground. We'll have to see what sort of playstyle Stats is currently favoring. In the games that I recently got to cast between Hero and Maru, in the vast majority of the games, Hero was no longer playing Twilight Council. A little bit of, yeah, Stargate play, obviously, so he went for some Phoenix builds. Oh, there we go. Okay, I was wondering about this. So, this map is pretty darn good for any sort of blink opener. 2-gate, 3-gate, 4-gate is all fine. But it seems like lately, at least, the very best Protosses in the world have not been opening up with Twilight Councils as quickly anymore. It's a lot of Stargate into Twilight. Even some Robo first styles as well, with quick, even like 2-base Colossi play, which is kind of wild, but... Anyways, I'm assuming this will be a 2-gateway start, because it's Stats. There's Blink. And I will probably try to see him defend against whatever the Terran player is going to throw at him. So, this will be a Widowmine drop. The unit may be nerfed, but still pretty darn good. Okay, we're actually going up to 3 gateways here. 3 gateways together with a Robo facility. If you want to make this almost an all-in, you can go up to 4 gateways. So that used to be the style that players like Hero, players like MaxSpecs were executing pretty much every single game. And they were winning a lot of their games with 4-gate Blink Stalker. The problem is that they also directly trained the Terrans at the highest level, like for example Cure, to be significantly better against that exact style. So, the build is not quite as popular anymore. Cure also, by the way, going into Raven play. That's something we saw Maru doing as well. Alrighty, here goes the medevac drop. Okay. I volunteer as tribute! Yeah, it's a sad day to be a probe. I like the fact that he saved him. 4 workers is not bad. Really nothing to write home about, though. And at the very least, right now, Terran is not going to be able to put on so much pressure at this point in time, so we'll likely just see that 3rd Nexus planted down. Nice. And quickly. 3 gateways is kind of the middle of the road style. which usually is not really something that is very popular at the pro level. So when players figure out, hey, I can take a third base and be safe against everything off of 2 gateways, usually they will go for a 2-gate opener every single time. 3-gateway, though, has been quite popular because it allows you to take a third base at a reasonable time and still also put on quite a bit of pressure on the other side of the map. There's a robo facility done, so high ground vision will be achieved. Blink is finished already. But exactly, that Raven, of course, is a detector, so you have to be very cautious. He would probably like to blink into the main base, try to see if he can potentially snipe the tech lab that is researching Stim. No prism or anything like that. I don't think he's really going to be able to achieve it. Yeah, he decides to just settle for the guaranteed damage. Okay. 50 gas, 50 minerals down the drain. Yeah, 3-gateway openers have been around for many, many years. Okay, this is where we have the gateway explosion. 5 more are added into the mix. Robo Bay coming up. Charge is about halfway finished, and then we have the +1 fired up inside of the forge. So this will just lead towards Zealots, together with a whole load of Stalkers, and then also some Colossi. Perfect timing, though, for Protoss. We do now have a transition here for the Terran as well into Stimpack combat shields together with +1 infantry weapons. Terran can't really be aggressive until all of those upgrades are finished, and by the time that those upgrades are done, there should be a Colossus available on the other side of the map, together with a shield battery over at the 3rd. Okay. Okay, we're gonna finish up that supply depot from earlier. A recall to try and maybe get some damage done over here. Shield battery is helping out quite a bit. I think he probably meant to recall towards the natural expansion, but he didn't have the energy here. This is one of those openers, by the way. Widowmine into Raven that gets shut down quite hard with a Phoenix opener instead. So it's that weird rock, paper, scissors of this matchup. But still, well managed right here by stats. Widowmine drop, by the way, still in the bottom right-hand corner. Always a threat. Stalkers are waiting. Extended thermal lens is about 60% or so of the way done. Dang, Jimmy. Jimmy decided to stim and run forward. Anti-armor missile, of course, not to be underestimated. He's trying to force the siege up here. Okay. I don't mind that. Stats loses a couple of his zealots, but he buys quite a bit of time. Now this is a curious little attack here from Cure. Hey, hey, unintentional pun. Anyways, gets the gas geyser, and we're gonna apparently do a bit of an elevator drop into the main base. Floor 1. Well, floor 1 is inside of the natural of the opponent, apparently. Widowmine drops, threatening still in the main base. Medevacs as well, heading on over towards the left side of the map. Still no all army hotkey here by Stats. Can you believe it? Yeah, Stats is really good in these standoffs. He's not gonna walk into that range of the siege tanks. There's a lot of moving parts at this point for the Terran player. And Cure is inviting him to fight. Ooh, Widowmine's actually firing right there at that medevac too. Good cleanup right here by the Protoss. Good deflection as well inside of that natural expansion. Widowmine drop. I think maybe Cure has forgotten about it. But as long as Stats hasn't, it's all good. Alrighty. So, Terran in the meantime secured the 3rd base. 4th expansion here as well, or I guess 3rd expansion, but 4th base right here for Stats is also finished. 2nd robo facility coming up. This may now be the time here for the Protoss player to try and bring the heat to the side of the Terran. Honestly, really good defense here by Stats. I really like what he's been cooking up lately. Just, yeah, not really taking a beating in any way, right? Just cleanly defending against everything, and it looks easy when he does it like that, but we have seen so many games where the Widowmine drop comes in and it deals too much damage. The random medevacs go across the map and they kill a Nexus. The Colossi overextend and they get shot at by the siege tank, right? There's so many things that can go horribly wrong. But it turns out, just not making mistakes may just be the answer. Yeah. So just a little bit of advice if you are struggling, not just with StarCraft 2, but really with anything in life. Just stop making mistakes. Yeah. Just those mistakes you're making, don't make them. Just do a better job instead. Brilliant advice. Well, at the very least, that's what Stats is showing us, though. Playing miles better than he did just a couple months ago. +2/+2 coming up right here for Cure. Obviously, Cure didn't really commit too hard to anything scary, by the way. Mostly just skill checks right here from the Terran player. And he will find that he probably wins about 50% of the games by now. Instead, he's finding himself with a maxed out army and not that strong of an economy, but also not a weak one. +2/+2 is quite late. So maybe that's the only real criticism that we can have. Widowmine drop in the bottom right-hand corner. Dude, I'm gonna miss the Widowmine drop when it finally flies in. I've been checking this freaking medevac on the minimap for about the last 5 minutes, okay? My eyes, they are idling right over here on this tiny little red pixel. I'm gonna miss it. I think Cure has actually just forgotten about the medevac. Anyways, Vikings in a bit of trouble. I don't mind that. Ooh, SCV transfer gets caught. Terran army, completely not expecting the Protoss in this section of the map. Cure scans and sees that there is a bit of a split off. Okay. Zealot sacrifice going into the natural expansion as well as the third base. A literal minefield out there. Okay, Disruptors try to get a bit of a hit, but apparently we're just gonna sack the Zealots, run them around to get as much damage in as possible. I think that might be an overextension, but at least some of them managed to get teleported back home. Stats buying a lot of time, though. He's now taking his 6th base over here, right around the time that Stats is securing his 4th. Honestly, Stats, I don't know what's changed, but playing some really strong StarCraft 2. Okay. 2-2 is going to finish here in just a moment for Cure. And that is a very substantial power spike. I don't think Stats can really hang out in this section of the map. Okay, well, he disagrees. There's another big anti-armor missile. Zealots are going to be charging at those siege tanks up there. Disruptors! Oh my lord! That was so close. Cure just almost lost the entire army there. Okay, well, this game just got flipped upside down. Really nicely handled there by the Terran. I think Stats also thought he had it. I thought he had it anyways. Cure just right-clicking the right units at the perfect time. And when the balls don't connect, it is a very difficult game to play for the Protoss. Suddenly, most of the splash damage has been deflected. I don't think Cure can really push here for the win. He's thinking about it, though. I don't think he's quite there yet. No, I think he may actually be overextending a bit. Landed Viking and a Ghost get clipped over there. Disruptor's moving a little too far forward. An absolute bloodbath here in the middle of the map, but ultimately this is going very nicely for Cure now. Man, the top-level Terrans are so good at judging those engagements. Oh! That's what he was hoping for earlier. Wait, no. When did that... Wait, what? Ay. This is while we were dancing over here. This is while we were... I missed the medevac. When did the medevac fly in? Okay, well that is incredibly anticlimactic. I think I was actually an all army hotkey right there from Cure. This is when he pulled the trigger to try and snipe. When he tried to snipe all of that splash damage. Okay, so this is where we were. He continued the dance over here for a little bit longer, overextended a bit. This is when that, yeah, indeed, those 2 units got clipped by the Nova. Cure, by the way, in the meantime, has started up 3-3. 14 Zealots getting warped in all at once. Okay, this is where we were. So, Protoss at 75 probes is not bad, but I don't think he's got quite enough workers to really play this style properly. Because he's not going for a very tech-heavy army here. It's a lot of disruptors, I guess, and that's nice. But this is not really an army that has a lot of very heavy hitters in there. There's obviously no Skytos, there's no High Templar, there's no Colossi remaining. This is a very, Stalker Zealot-based unit composition. And look at the production tab right now. There's nothing happening for stats. Whereas Cure is trying to get to the halfway point of my monitor here, trying to just fill it with as many upgrades and units as he can. Cure is still progressing as far as his unit strength goes, whereas Stats is apparently not feeling comfortable adding any additional complexity to his army. Instead, he's expanding again, which is fine, but now Cure actually is the one with the bigger economy. Yeah, he's been forced to transfer some of those workers. There's the Fusion Core coming up, another starport. +2 air weapons, by the way, researching as well. So Cure is going for that mass liberator style that we usually see in the late game. Difficult for Terran to get to, but it effectively counters everything that Stats currently has. Stats actually going for a third robo facility here as well. Okay, does he have enough firepower? I think he should at least get +1, or +2 rather. Maybe +1 shields as well, but +2 armor. Planetary goes down, loads of SCVs are falling. Okay, now that Nova was good. Another big Nova on the right. I think this is still manageable though for Cure. Yeah, in a straight up battle, those Stalkers and Zealots just don't quite cut it. But this is gonna make that transition towards the Liberators a little bit more difficult. It's not like Terran has an amazing economy at this point in the game either. Triple Colossus on the production tab too, by the way. Okay, nicely done here by Stats. Trying to hold on. I mean, to be fair though, a lot of those fights are manageable because of the fact that Cure has been taking like 3 or 4 big Novas to the face. Dude, these Warpins are massive. It's like the Legacy of the Void trailer. Here we go again. Stats maxed out. Ready to try and chase down this army. Stalkers blink forward. They shut down those libs. Easy peasy. Pretty much all the Medivacs are out of energy. If he can blink again, he's probably going to try and target them down as well. There we go. Cure forced to stutter step backwards. Liberators popping out of the starport. Keep in mind that at this point in the game, the third base for the Terran is going to be running low as well. He's only got another expansion over here on the left side of the map, so his income really is nothing to write home about. Even though I feel like this game would have been easier if Stats decided to go a little bit higher in the worker count, I guess reducing your opponent's worker count is another way to get the same advantage. Stats, though, has been playing this as effectively an all-in for the last couple minutes, and he may just be able to make it work. Mostly because he hasn't really added any upgrades into the mix, and he hasn't really added on a lot of complexity. Does he have enough? I mean, those Colossi are really shooting lasers that are connecting with all of those bio units. More disruptors forcing the Terran army to run. And when they're running, they're not firing. Stats manages to bring it back. Maybe to his own surprise as well, but he gets the job done. Game number 2. We find ourselves on Site Delta. Okay. I was fast forwarding through the first 2 minutes of the game because neither player was really doing anything. Stats hasn't scouted his opponent. Cure hasn't scouted his opponent either. Now I think we're just hiding the probe off to the left side, knowing very well that normally that a Reaper would spawn at about 2 minutes to 2:02, depending on how well Terran executed their early game. So this would be the point where the Reaper gets across the map. But this was a Marine opener straight up right here from Cure, so Cure's not scouting much of anything. He's gonna be able to kill that probe. Yeah, sorry, little probe. You're dead now. He got ganged up on me immediately, man. Terran players, am I right? Ay, ay, ay. Absolute bully. Can't believe it. Cure does what he needs to get done to get that lunch money. It'll be a Twilight Council opener straight up once again right here for Stats. I feel like most of the time on this map, we do see Stargate openers, but apparently not Mr. Stats. It's cool how both Stats and Classic seem to play the game a little bit differently from, for example, Hero and Max Specs. I consider Hero and Max Specs to be the best Protosses in the world, but both of them, I mean, they play Twilight Council openers, obviously, but not as much as they used to a few months ago. But both Classic and Stats seem to be going for Twilight Councils all the time still, as their very first structure. So I'm trying to figure out if this is like a quote-unquote older style to play, even though it's something we've seen for many, many years. Because the two players that are in my mind the very best in this particular matchup, they don't really open up with a Twilight Council like this as often anymore. But obviously, Twilight Council into Blink has been the gold standard for like 3 years now. For a little while there, mech specs used to literally go 4-gate Blink in every single game on every single map. Anyways, here comes a Widowmine drop once again. It's not 3 of them, it's 4. There is also, yeah, a bit of a attempted run by. Good movement, very good movement right here by our Protoss. Does not allow those stalkers to get out of the wall off. Alright. Hellion now shows where it's located. The other Hellion is on the left. 5 probes is obviously 5 probes, but very recoverable, of course, for the Protoss player. Okay, now Blink is done. And a bit of deja vu from the previous game. Medevac is going to be hanging out in the corner. I will keep paying attention to the minimap, but it will probably move right when I don't look. Yeah. That is what I'm expecting from that particular Widowmine drop. It'll probably hang out in that little bit of space in that little triangle section over. Oh no, we're gonna fly it immediately. Okay. Yeah, so Cure literally just forgot about it in the previous game. I think mixing it up though from game to game is actually quite nice. Even though this is all somewhat similar here for Cure, he's made some small deviations. More reactored out factory units in this particular game compared to the previous one. But this is essentially a one-to-one copy for stats compared to the previous game. Yeah, it does make you a little predictable. This is no longer the one-size-fits-all type of strategy that you could play for quite a while. Blink. What are we doing? Cure, man. Oh, yeah. Alright, well, we could have blinked. This is a much nicer start here, though, for our Terran. The only thing that he obviously has not gone for here is a third command center. So with only, 2 command centers, that third base is incredibly late. Meaning that he needs to get something done. Now, luckily for him, he's got the golden trio of upgrades finishing up. Stimpack, combat shields, +1 infantry weapons. They will all be finished, and he's got an awful lot of units. If Cure has any say in the matter, he's going to win the game in the next few minutes here. He is planning on doing exactly that. Look at the army supplies. 53 for Terran versus 22 for Protoss. Now, this is right when Stats is making that transition. Gateway explosion, just like the previous game. We have got ourselves a ranged upgrade for the Colossus. We do need to make another Colossus, okay. Probably chrono boosted as well if we can, but this is a vulnerable moment in the game. Right before Stats is going to be able to get all those warpins in. Let's see. Always tricky, though, to get the engagement in. Yeah. Cure wants to fight, but he also doesn't want to siege up within range of those shield batteries, right? So it's a tricky one. He can try and move off to the top section here. It's the downside of going for those delayed command centers. He's even going to fly it over before morphing in the orbital command, because he's been oversaturating his base for quite a while. Widowmine dropping the main base attempted once again. But yeah, Cure effectively inviting his opponent. Come and fight me, bro. Just come and hang out. Let's fight over here. Okay, well, this is a location where Cure will be quite happy to fight. No shield batteries to speak of in this location. And you know what? His army is still absolutely massive. Marauders just jump on the Colossus. I have no idea why Stats decided to chase this army down. Maybe he didn't know that it was located right over there, but that was incredibly costly. Yeah, and now suddenly, Cure is feeling brave enough to just make that YOLO drop into the main base. He targets one of the medevacs, but it was the one that had no units in it. I am gonna fast forward through the first 2 minutes. Because these guys do very little. Okay, our first bit of action will be when this thing spawns. Alrighty, this particular series will be wrapped up on Alcyone. Alcyone. LQ1. No, I don't like LQ1. I know some of the pro gamers refer to this map as LQ1. Sneaky. I hate everything about LQ1. I think Alcyone sounds the best, but Alcyone is also, I guess, acceptable. Anyways, Stargate opener. Hey, you love to see it. Stats actually mixing it up. Cyclone now on the back of this. So Cure also mixing it up. He hasn't actually seen the Stargate. This Reaper is trying his very best to bait out as many of those units as possible, but here's little Probius being a bit of a jerk. Hiding in plain sight over on the watchtower. Now Probius, I don't know if he realizes it, but he's on a one-way trip as well. Oh! Never mind! Probius gets recalled back home! What a beautiful day to be a lover of probes. A probe mod? That could be interpreted a weird way. No. Anyways. At least the Stargates get scouted here. And it will be a Phoenix opener. Okay, so stats actually mixing it up. I think it's important. You can't really play the same game 3 times in a row. It's pretty obvious that Cure did a much better job in game 2 than he did in game number 1 with the early game harassment, and you become a little bit too predictable when you play the same strategy over and over and over again. Even though it's broadly speaking and looking very similar, you do have to mix it up. Do you think it's worth recalling a probe like that? It puts recall on cooldown, which is one thing. Doesn't really matter too much, because you don't really need that cooldown. But it obviously also costs as much energy as a chrono boost. I guess mentally it's the biggest thing. Yeah. Mentally it's always nice. Maybe he should have mined 5 minerals over here and then recalled it. That way, we would have to take another another variable into consideration. Those 5 minerals are gonna make the game one day. Yeah, maybe there's a morale boost as well, I guess, for the rest of those probes. Anyways, this is one of the downsides of the Phoenix opener, because all of these cleanups are very tricky. Probius, no! Oh, well, Probius died. At least it did trigger the Widow Mine there to be lifted up in the air, but it's very delicate here for the Protoss with this particular opener. When you go for the Phoenixes, they're relatively tanky. They don't die that quickly, but obviously you can only lift. It's not like you're gonna be able to really kill any of those Cyclones directly with the Phoenixes, so you have to be cautious with the amount of energy. Good movement right here by Cure, but he is pushing himself into a corner. Yeah, can't really go anywhere from here, so even though I like the movement overall, he is getting rid of a lot of those Phoenixes. If you can kill one more, that would be really nice for him. Oh, don't donate the medevac. Losing the medevac actually kind of sucks. Oh, just barely lives. Gets the medevac too. Oh, nicely done actually by Cure. He targeted it. Okay, he targeted it just at the last possible second. So ultimately that means that I guess all the Phoenixes have been, well, pretty much reset. There's only, I think, a second one just spawned. There was only one remaining after that particular engagement, and he's actually rebuilding the Phoenix count. I guess the problem right there for stats is that he didn't actually put down the Robo Bay yet. So a straight transition towards Colossi is not really an option. So he has to sort of awkwardly play this style for a little bit longer. Third command center though, significantly earlier in this game as when we saw it in the previous one. In the previous game, I think he started it at about 6:20. Now it's already done. We're going to be going into an orbital command as well. This is now a third CC before the Protoss' third base is finished, which is quite uncommon in this matchup. So considering Cure managed to reset the Phoenix count, he managed to trade most of the army units out, and he managed to get a quicker third command center out, I think he's feeling very comfortable. Maybe the supply count is not quite reflecting it yet, but He's gonna feel very good about how this is going so far. Not much the Protoss can really do. Other than maybe even consider already taking another base. I wouldn't hate it, because Protoss can't really attack. Terran can't really attack, although Cure... Yeah. He knows that there is a chance that a 4th Nexus is already building here, so he may very well test the waters for a little bit. The right side of the map is not easy to access, because you have to mine out these mineral fields, so I guess you can go with a medevac drop or something along those lines, but... This is not an army that can really go in and just fight. Stats knows it. Decides to go across the map. Phoenixes should be home in time for dinner as well. If Terran indeed does decide to commit to a fight. Oh, instant fleet beacon. Interesting. Second Stargate and a very fast fleet beacon. Not a very common style anymore as of late. Most of the time, whenever we see Skytos in the late game of this matchup, it is because Terran has gone for, like, say, for example, Mass Liberator, which is what Cure was starting up in game number 1. Tempests are kind of good against that if you're making them at the correct moment. Carriers can be quite strong as well. This could definitely be for a Mama ship. Mothership into Tempest production or carrier. Yeah, I don't think it's a terrible idea. Problem with these units is that they take a long while before they really get underway, and here's the holy trinity of Terran upgrades finishing up again. It's actually a 4th upgrade now too. Anyways, Terran has got a whole... Okay, did he cancel the carrier and go into Tempest? Fair enough. Yeah, it's good, but it takes so... Like, this transition takes forever. Those first Tempests are really expensive as well, because you're going into air upgrades, you're going into, obviously, the Fleet Beacon, the 2nd Stargate. Those first Tempests are relatively expensive. It's a lot more manageable when the 3rd wave or so of them comes out, but... Luckily, right here for stats, Cure is letting him go here. I think Cure could have been a little bit more aggressive, but he didn't really want to take any risks. Ghost Academy coming up here instead. He hasn't seen much inside of the main base. Okay. Now, even though Stats seems to be able to get away with this very expensive tech transition, I'm still not 100% sure if I really like it. Going into carriers now on the back it is. +2/+2 coming up for Cure. It does feel a little bit desperate in a way. I think you should probably go for a mothership as well. Shouldn't you? I always think the mama ship is pretty good for 300 minerals, 300 gas, but a lot of the pro gamers don't seem to agree. At the bare minimum, it's so nice to have such a big target with loads of hit points that it's gonna really protect... Oh, there we go. Okay, I was gonna say. Yeah, at the very least, it's just a massive tanky unit. Problem here for Stats, though, is that he can't do much. He doesn't have a Prism out on the map, I don't think. He doesn't have a Zealot run by that he can really go for. He has Charge done right now, but that's really about it. Now Stats will figure out exactly what he's playing against. There's only 2 Tempest, so I can just sort of force the issue. Make it difficult for Terran to play this passive push. Passive push was, by the way, my nickname in call. No, it wasn't. Never mind. One of the Tempests have already died. Stargate also paid the price, though. Stargate 2, 2.0 coming up. Phoenixes, okay. Pick up a few of the units that were left behind. Barracks 6, 7, and 8 coming up. +2/+2 is on the horizon. This is the light at the end of the tunnel for Terran players. Yeah, when Terrans die and go to heaven, this is what they see. 2 engineering base. Just about to finish up 2-2. And a 200 supply army. Oof. Oof. That is a sweet moment as Terran. So let's see if Cure can capitalize on it. I am not convinced that this army is that great. We have Storm coming. Like, all of this will be great. It's just that it's still a while away until it will be very powerful. And as long as Cure hits within the next minute or so, he should be okay. +1 air weapons finishing up too for the Vikings. Zealot run by on the left side of the map. Planetary Fortress, however, is going to finish in about maybe 10-15 seconds. Cure is looking for an opportunity, and I think he may have just found it. Big Stimpak activated over here. Storm is about, maybe 30 seconds away from finishing. Mama Ship does pop down all of its cooldowns. The Time Warp, but apparently Cure is just fighting inside of it. We have the Planetary Fortress finished up in the meantime, but 17 SCVs did pay the price. Mothership stays alive because of those shield batteries for now. Cloaking Field also lasts forever, and the Mothership actually lives. Only 31 HP remains. The Vikings did not quite finish the job. Okay. And now Storm is done as well. +3 coming up. We have got +2 for the air units. I think that's really nice, especially when all of those 5 carriers are fully built up their interceptor, or with their interceptor count. Nexus will go down. New Nexus can be rebuilt over here. I don't think that's a massive issue for stats. Just staying alive here is the most important part for Protoss. Alright, Stats has effectively skipped most of the mid-game, and he's gone straight to a late-game army. That Mothership surviving twice. Really, really nice right here for our Protoss. Okay, Cure. Going for an expansion down south. 3-3, of course, is better than 2-2. But by the time that these upgrades are done, this Protoss army is far more complex than it was when 2-2 finished. You need about 4 hands in order to micro this Terran army properly, so let's see. Stats is smelling blood in the water right now. There's a Prism showing up as well. Loads of Vikings, by the way. We're currently already at 14 with 6 of them on the production tab. Vikings counter about 80% of his army. Okay, maybe not 80%. But here we go. Stats once again going for the Time Warp, going in once more for that Cloaking upgrade. Now the Mama Ship, of course, does die to like 20 of those Vikings shooting at the same time. The Storms are a little late, though. I would have liked to see those Storms a little sooner. They're absolutely critical in these fights. And the High Templar, I think some of them must have been feedbacked immediately at the start of the engagement. There's the big Stalker Warp in as well. Interceptors are mostly gone out of those carriers. Okay, there's not a lot of healing remaining anymore for the Terran units either, though. There's one Stalker here starting to work on one of those command centers. Okay, nicely done right here by Stats. That was a fight that could have gone horribly wrong. I actually think if those High Templar would have showed up just a bit earlier, it would have been significantly better for him. He's starting to target fire down as many of those Vikings as possible too, but another carrier pays the price. War Prism moved very far forward, +2 air weapons, finishing up here for Cure eventually. Still forced to make so many of those Vikings. Nexus rebuilding at the top of the map. But Stats wants to win right here, right now. He needs to be very cautious, though. This is a maxed out, as far as upgrades go anyways, bio army. And it's going up against a Protoss army that has +3 attack, but no armor upgrades at all. And that's noticeable. Those Marines and Marauders are gonna pack a punch. And Cure knows it. He's pretending like his army is quite weak, but it's not to be underestimated. EMPs here also really do help quite a bit. Stat starts up what seems to be almost like a soft contain. He has 31 supply ahead right now, but this may be the moment where Cure is thinking about breaking out of this position into a choke point, though, with a Zealot flank. I don't think he can really pull that off. He decides to back off once again. This is a dangerous game. It's on a knife's edge right now. Cure needs to hold on against this army. Okay, here we go. Stimpak activated. A lot of the SCVs in the front as well, soaking up a ton of those charges from the Zealots. All of the air units at this point have disappeared. Vikings finish up the Colossi too. There's another Colossus sleeping on the job here on the right side of the screen, and Cure does win the ground battle. Another warp in. Can we finish the warp in? Oh my god, the warping gets denied. Well, that's a disaster actually for Stats. Cure, pulls a rabbit out of a hat. Oh, dude, that was such a good fight for Cure. He needed to get a little lucky. I think if that Colossus would have joined in just about 5 seconds sooner, that fight would have looked very different, but Cure breaks out of the contain. He's not out of the water yet, though. Vikings may just need to land here after finishing the job. Although, to be fair, all of those bio units right now coming in for the reinforce, it is indeed enough. Stats decides to tap out, and what seemed to be a Protoss win turns out to be a victory for Cure in the end.